Hi, and welcome to WeBeam TV. Today we have a special edition of Community Issues in which we will be discussing things that are going on in the community and specifically an issue involving the Tanglewood Estates area of Newport Richey and a proposed building project there that has a lot of the residents pretty much up in arms and upset. And we're going to find out why they're upset and what their grounds are for maybe doing something about it. So let's go ahead and begin. We're going to start off down at the end. Okay, this is John. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit?
Hi, my name is John Campanella. I live in Highlands of Tanglewood East. That's nestled actually in between Tanglewood East and the property in question. Mm-hmm. And I represent Highlands of Tanglewood East. And we have a lot to discuss with this. So
exactly. Shannon?
My name is Shannon Whitwer.
Up closer.
My name is Shannon Whitwer. I am a resident of Tanglewood. I've lived there a little over 2 years, and I love it. I love the rural setting, and that's why I moved there, and most of the people did as well.
Exactly. Craig?
Thank you. Hi, my name is Craig Laporte, and I'm an attorney here in Newport Richey, but more importantly, I live in Hidden Lake Estates, which is a subdivision almost directly across from Tanglewood East. More importantly, Hidden Lake Estates operates an airport, and our concern is the safety of the folks that would live in this apartment complex, plus our flight crews, and we believe that the airport poses an unreasonable risk of danger, and we're going to be discussing that with you as well.
Now, honestly, that sounds, way beyond anything in terms of, gee, I'm really happy, or, unhappy that this thing's going to be happening. I don't want these people for neighbors. I don't want that. This is beyond any kind of question in that matter. And we will be getting to Craig about the airport safety issue. But what I'll do, Shannon, why don't you go ahead and lead off and give us an overview, if you don't mind, maybe like a 10,000-foot overview, and so that we can go ahead and get an idea of what is the history of this and where do your concerns lie primarily.
Okay. Well, the history is about a month ago, I received a newsletter on my mailbox, not in the mailbox, on the mailbox, just to be clear. And it was about a community meeting and explained that the developer was going to come in and build four-story buildings, which would house 230, would be 230 homes inside of these apartments. And then in front of that would be 10,000 square feet of, whether they decide to make it office buildings or put stores, anything like that.
Convenience store, retail space, could
be
a Domino's Pizza, who knows?
Sure, another Dunkin' Donuts.
Well, now, wait a minute.
I do love Dunkin' Donuts.
So there is an upside to this.
Yeah,
okay,
but there's one right up the street.
There's good coffee.
Sure,
okay, all right,
sure.
all right.
So I went to the meeting, and it was a good turnout, and it turned out that I did not meet one person that was for this. And our county commissioner was there along with her assistant. They gave us information. Basically, we told her we're still not for this, so how do we move forward and what should we do? From there, nothing really happened. We've been doing a lot of research. There's a handful of us doing that between zoning, crime, background on the developer himself, and his previous developments that he has completed. We've gone that far. Just the area in itself and the density versus low density, which is what we are, and we'd like to keep it that way. So research, getting people together, getting the community together to let our commissioners know this is not something that's wanted here. It's all up and down 54, and that's great, but we all live on at least 2 acres or more where I am, where Craig is, same thing. And I believe, John, where you are, it's at least, half acre or more?
generally it's about an acre.
No.
Other way around. You turn it off when you're going to cough. So there we go. We're all on all the time. So yep, that's one of the beautiful things about live TV. So what I think, so what you're saying is they came out. They said, "Hey, we want to put in 4 buildings, and there's going to be 230 units."
Yes.
Yeah, which will be from 1, 2, 3, 4 bedrooms.
Yes.
Okay, so you're talking about potentially 500, 600 new residents, which I think currently the entire. Tanglewood only has 230 homes.
284.
284. So you're talking about doubling just what Tanglewood already is.
Yes.
In one high density location. So I got to ask, if it's a high density location and it's not right within your Tanglewood, because they're not taking your 2 acres to do this, okay, is that really going to impact you?
Actually, it is Tanglewood.
Oh.
It is part of
But
Tanglewood.
Yes, it is part of Tanglewood, but is it going to impact your house?
Yes, it will.
Okay. Why don't you explain to me how?
It will impact my house because of the school right down the street. Okay, so Cypress Elementary 2 times during the day, Monday through Friday, you cannot get in or out of your home. And there are only about 10, I want to say maybe 15 people or 15 homes on that street. Mm-hmm. So you're stuck. Whether you want to come home, you cannot get to your home. If you want to leave, that's a little bit of a different story. But I thought about, what if someone was in danger and needed to call an ambulance, or you have to drive on the opposite side of the road to get where you want to go.
All right. So we have a density issue. We have, other road issues that need to be addressed, widening of roads or handling for things, because if we're doubling the population of the neighborhood, then you're probably looking at doubling the number of children in the neighborhood.
Yes.
So the elementary school is going to have twice as many children. Where are they going to go? Is the school equipped for twice as many children, or is it already overcrowded? these are questions that
I can
do you have
answer.
children?
I do.
Quick answer.
Well, that school has a freeze on it. And it was presented to the Planning Commission as there's plenty of room, but there's actually a freeze on that school. They cannot take another child. They are that full.
So to play, I don't know who's advocate here. I don't want to cast, this gentleman as the devil, but to play devil's advocate,
Sure.
If they can't take any more children, then that whole argument's off the table, because they won't be taking any more children. It won't impact the volume there. So where are those kids going to go?
Exactly.
Okay, and the busing of those children, because they won't be able to allow them in the neighborhood. Or is this going to be a case where they start to allow them in, and then your kids can't get into your own school? That you moved there for, you bought your house for, that's why you're there.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's something that, definitely has to be answered, the school situation, because it looks like they're going to be busing them, and, you're looking at adding, probably 50 to 100 new students.
Sure.
Of all different ages at that point. So, John, you have brought a lot of documentation with you, yes. So why don't you go ahead? What is your primary number one argument, okay, for why this should not proceed as planned?
Well, the biggest issue is not so much the traffic. It is an issue. The biggest situation is not so much the traffic issue. Mm-hmm. It is going to get worse. Mm-hmm. First of all, right now, COVID, people are working from home. And just to stay on the traffic for one moment, and I will move on. Mm-hmm. Those charts that indicate these schools are relatively either overfull or not, mm-hmm. that's for the projected year of next year. Mm-hmm. Now, between now and these buildings that are proposed, if mm-hmm. they are allowed, people will be moving in the meantime, which means those schools are actually going to get worse. So right. By the time this is built, the problem will be actually much worse than they see it.
Than it was, yes.
Right.
That's the first thing.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now I will move on.
Okay.
Bottom line is this, that if you look at all of the statutes that are involved in mm-hmm. order to accomplish this zone amendment, mm-hmm. it is countless. In theory, if you reasonably thought that you could get something done, mm-hmm. what you would do is you would try and get something done and figure maybe you'd be lucky if you jumped over maybe 3 hurdles that weren't
right.
With zoning. But if you look at all of the issues involved, It's ridiculous. The amount of things that they have to jump, the statutes.
The number of waivers and
yes.
variances and
Yes.
everything else that they have to push through
Yes.
in order to accomplish this. But
Yes.
that's fine. That's up to them to do that. And if they can do that, then
Yes,
they're
but
legit in.
The problem is this. Those statutes and everything are based on the comprehensive plan to 2025, which means that's how they're supposed to actually make their decisions. They made this decision. I'm thinking it was like so many years ago, and it's supposed to remain in effect to 2025. So between now and 2025, they are theoretically supposed to follow the guidelines of what they set for what their goals were. And the
Understand.
problem is all of these statutes are basically based on the comprehensive plan for 2025.
Okay.
There are statutes that, for instance, state that they can't put commercial in this one area where we are there, simply because it's in between two residential communities and this and that. And the statute just plainly says that if it's got to work with the, I'd have to try and find that. But there's so many of them here.
Okay. Are any of these to do with, say, swift mud or the eco issues or what we're supposed to be hitting for preserving natural areas? I mean, are those part of it?
Well, they've already put in an application to Swift Mud.
I'm sure.
I am not aware of what they actually did as far as Swift Mud goes, but you could see what they're doing is they're removing, a lot of trees, and they're repositioning where the retention areas are going to be.
Okay.
But that in itself is only a small facet of it all.
Well, I believe that. So none of these are actually protected lands, but they are not supposed to be commercial. Okay, but we're only talking about a 10,000 square foot actual commercial area. The rest of it's residential.
Okay.
Am I correct?
The area where they're looking to do the commercial is not a Swift Mud area.
Right.
Okay. The issue is basically the fact that, look, supposedly they have to make these changes, which I surmise, that satisfies Swift Mud. Okay, so they
Sure.
have put an application in. I do not know how they have made out with that.
Well, that's and if SwiftMod approves it, there isn't much you can do. SwiftMod says it's okay, and hopefully they're looking out for the best interest of the nature, basically, in this situation. And so they're the experts, and we have to trust that they're going to make the right decision
Yes.
there. Now, what you're talking about with the county, though, this is different, okay? Because the county has their own goals and their own plans that they're supposed to be hitting, and if they are well ahead of schedule because a bunch of building didn't go on somewhere else, they may have the slack in their system to allow for something like this. Do you know where any of that stands?
I do not know. I don't have an answer to that question.
Okay.
But I can tell you that they've recently approved apartments up in Hudson, which is not too far away.
Okay.
And in fact, when those apartments are done, that's going to affect schools that are almost full already, too. It's just at the end. So there's just so much of an intrusion with the amount of people that are going to be involved with the school system on this. But that's not the only thing.
Okay.
Our planning board, it consists of people who are hired due to their expertise. They are not elected. These people are diversified.
Yeah.
One knows about real estate. Another one knows about zoning. Another one understands about
Traffic flow, civil
exactly.
engineering.
And
yes,
together,
et cetera.
they are supposed to come up with a perfect criteria on how to make decisions on what's going on. Now, they did meet earlier, and they actually knocked it down. So these people who are educated and they were hired for this have already made a recommendation not to approve it.
Good.
So now
Okay.
what happens is our county commissioners would now begin to look at all of the stuff that's
The other
coming in.
factors,
As of
yeah.
right now, of course, they can't make any decision because they base their decision on everything that comes into play. So between now and the day they vote, they're still compiling and they're trying to decide, how to come up with a correct answer. And of course, we kind of put our faith in them because we elected them.
Right.
And the bottom line is, if they actually take a look at all of the statutes that have to be literally
Amended, rewritten.
well,
Yeah.
I mean, in other words,
Yeah.
there's just so many of them.
Yeah.
I
mean, do you have a ballpark? I mean, are we talking about 4? Are we talking about 14?
pull
How
it
many
right
do you
here.
think you have found just in your research, okay, that need to be amended in order to allow this to proceed?
Oh, my guess is maybe 10 or so.
Okay. So if
There
we're
might be
looking,
more, yes.
Yeah. Well, but at least you found probably 10.
And they
So
actually-
then, go ahead.
And they actually say you can't do it. In other words, for
Mm-hmm.
instance, one of these, it's a state law. It's called spot zoning.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And apparently, I can read something on spot zoning. I
Yep.
think I have that.
Yep, just get right up close to your
by.
microphone.
Yes, I'm looking for that thing. You can see my filing
Yeah.
system leaves a little bit of desired here. So,
Well, we're not exactly in your office, so that's okay.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Okay. I have something else on spot zoning, but it's not going to be what I wanted to say. Okay. Spot zoning is actually illegal in the state of Florida. Okay. And that's based on the fact that it's generally done in order to allow something that really wouldn't fit in the area. Generally, that benefits the one person, okay, that's attempting to get the zoning change. So they actually have to take into consideration the surrounding people with that.
Yes.
So, but it is illegal in Florida, spot zoning, and this is clearly a spot zoning issue. Now, that's one of the
Could be.
items.
I mean, to you, it's very clear. I'm sure that there are people out there who can make it as murky as they wish it to be, and and it may be that your interpretation of spot zoning is going to be different from theirs, because right off the bat, I can see that there may be an argument for this is going to benefit 270 families. This is
Yes.
going to benefit, the school, because the increased revenue, the tax revenue for the county, it's going to be better for everyone everywhere. Especially if they're going to be adding, which I guess is one of the arguments here, they're going to be adding, new medical facilities and so on along the Ridge Road extension.
Okay.
And so therefore you will have a higher end people who need to live here, and so
Okay.
that's going to benefit everyone, that we're going to be able to do this.
Okay.
But
Now,
go ahead and read what
I
you
have
got there.
something here
Yeah.
about that. Scott McConaughey of Charleston Communities.
Okay.
That's the-
Steve.
Steve, rather. Yes, I'm sorry, Steve McConaughey. Basically, when he spoke at the first meeting that was at the county for the planning, this is exactly what happened. Steve was so busy selling his utopia that he failed to discuss any public safety issues, traffic concerns, and it would have been nice to have the sheriff's representative there so that he would be able to turn around and interact with questions or solutions for making a decision.
Okay. And so I take it the Steve McConaughey is the
Yes.
builder?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So that's good to know. And so he didn't raise those issues, but that's just the absence of evidence. It doesn't mean he wasn't prepared for it. It just means it wasn't raised at this issue. So clearly what you want to do is you want to hear his answers. Because I mean, if his answer is he's going to put in a whole new bus line and take care of everything and it'll never go through your roads at all. Okay, we have to see what his answers are to these issues. But right now, these sound like really significant issues. And the fact is, you did bring up the the fact that there was no representative from the sheriff's office there to ask any questions about these things. And I would like to get into another concept, and that is that have there been other apartment buildings built in the area, say along 52 or 54 or anywhere, and what has been the impact in those areas on things like traffic crime? Do we have any indication of that? I mean, does it go down? Does it go up? What happens? Shannon, what have you got on that?
Well, I can tell you what I did some research on some of his properties. One is in Zephyr Hills. There is another one in, I believe it's Largo. There's a few of them, but I researched at least 3 to 4. I was just curious to see what the people in those complexes actually thought. And they started out as what they call Class A, which is what Mr. McConaughey is offering, Class A, which is presented as a better class of people that are going to be renting.
Well,
I know. I'm just pointing that out.
And you know what? That's fair. Because if you're going to make that claim, that's really how we're all reading it.
Sure.
Okay? And it's just the way it is.
Sure.
Yeah.
Except the reviews did not reflect that. They all started out very good with well intentions. It was being well kept. The management was great. And then it went down to there's no security. People are always partying. They're, doing drugs. They could smell the drugs. Same thing.
Yeah.
4 stories up. And literally reviews were saying, I'd rather live in a dumpster. Yes. It started out
And how
good.
old are these?
I
facilities?
believe about 2018, at least one of them. Yeah, they don't go
And
back
it's already
very far.
gone.
Yes.
Wow.
They went from grade 2. I feel like I'm living in section
3 years. In 3 years.
Yes.
That's incredible.
Yes. So I can only imagine if those people that live there feel that way, the surrounding area, I don't think it takes a genius to figure out how they feel.
Well, and again, I wasn't necessarily asking how people feel.
Sure.
I was asking about statistics.
Sure.
Okay, do we know anything about crime statistics on any other similar properties that have gone up in the area?
That's something that we can get.
Okay.
We can get that information.
Are you looking into that now?
Yes.
Okay,
That is
good.
being looked into, crime.
Okay, but you don't have those numbers yet.
Not on me,
All
no.
right, good. And John, have you got one more thing over there?
This is just getting off the subject for a moment, but at the original presentation for the Planning Commission, when we were discussing how this property should have to, in turn, follow the guidelines of Tanglewood East.
Okay.
And Tanglewood East has a requirement of 1 house per, I believe it's an acre.
Right.
And they said that they had nothing to do with Tanglewood East. They were mostly true, but it's not completely true. The larger piece of property does have nothing to do with Tanglewood East.
Okay.
However, the adjoining property, which is on the frontage of Ridge Road and Tanglewood Drive, is called Unit 1. And it clearly shows it's part of Tanglewood. So if they're incorporating that along with this thing and into the whole thing, Tanglewood has something to do with it, or they have something to do with Tanglewood. It's that simple. And they're feeling that they have nothing to do with it and they shouldn't have to comply to anything that involves Tanglewood.
Yeah, you can't pick up a piece of it and go, yeah, but we just cut that part off, right? It's not your arm anymore. We cut it off.
Yes.
Which kind of does work for organ donations, but we're not going to go there at the moment. And so it sounds like there's a lot of confusion about this. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered. We hope that our government officials, our elected officials, will do a very thorough review on this. And I do know some of the county commissioners, and they are pretty sharp people. On the other hand, when it gets this complicated, one can very easily, it just becomes a coin toss. Emotionally at that point.
Yes.
Where it's like, I don't know if this is good or bad, but I'm just tired of looking at it, so let's just go ahead and approve it. Okay, and is that really the way we want things to happen?
Right.
And at that point, if indeed the Planning Commission has looked at this with their level of specialists, you would think that they would be the default opinion on this.
Right.
And what the developer, and the fact is the developer and the community are at a stalemate.
Yes.
Okay. I'm pretty sure if you took a vote all through, all 3 of the Tanglewood properties, okay, you would not get a whole lot of support for this because there's nothing in it for them.
Right.
There's absolutely nothing positive for the Tanglewood communities.
Bass Lake as well. Hidden Lakes as well.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of those issues here, but the first thing I thought of when I heard about this, and you know, I'm like, I'm looking at this going, you got to be kidding me. Where? And that is the part that Craig is going to talk about now.
Right.
Because some people know it, a lot of people don't. In this particular area, there is a private airport. And there are people with those really funny-looking garages that look like 5-car garages with one door. That's because they're actually where they park their private planes. So it's, and you know, these are, you know, Cessnas. We're not talking about Learjets or anything here. You know, this isn't lifestyles of the rich and famous. But these are people whose hobbies or interests or work require them to fly. And, you know, there is an aviation company right there. Isn't that correct, Craig? What's the name of it? What's
It's Paul.
Paul Aerospace is across the way.
Yeah, Paul Aerospace.
They manufacture filtration systems for the military and government.
Okay. So, and, you know, so there's good reasons that this private airport exists. And so putting in, you know, more one-family homes in that area, okay, a 2-story house might be a little sketchy on that one near a private airport. But we're talking about a 4-story building, or excuse me, 4-story buildings. Yes. Craig, what is, I mean, where are they coming from? How safe is their position and plan for these buildings? I mean, is it really anywhere where it might come in the way of the runway?
Yes. It's not in the way of the runway, but it is directly beneath the approach corridor that we use for one of our runways at the airport under the FAA guidelines. And I think if I can tell the audience just a little bit of historically, Hidden Lake Airport was constructed in 1972 as a private airport. There's currently about 85 aircraft that are based there, but we also have a lot of aircraft coming and going that other people coming into the area use it for. We allow business people that need to come in and out to operate with prior permission. We have fuel. It is a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week airport, so we have aircraft operating anywhere between 6 in the morning and the following 6 in the morning. And so it can be very busy at times. It is also West Pasco County's only airport currently. Unfortunately, the other airport was destroyed to make room for Trinity, and therefore we operate under a letter of agreement with the county officials to operate as an emergency management airport. We therefore make our airport available in the event of a natural or man-made disaster. We'll have government aircraft coming in, humanitarian aircraft coming in. We have programs that provide for children between ages of 8 and 17 to go up on introductory flights. We do that 8, 9, 10 times a year. We'll often have 40 or 50 flights on a Saturday morning. And they're all operating in that area. And from the diagram you're looking at right now, up near the top, you'll see some airport hangars, the white hangars where there's the red exclamation point. That is the departure end of the runway 5. The parcel of property in question is actually down in the far left corner at the bottom on the south side of Ridge Road. And although you can't see it from this photograph, off the photograph and up to the left is Hidden Lake. Now that property up in that area is owned by Swift Mud. It's under contract with Pasco County that they're going to use for mitigation of flooding for the Bass Lake area if it goes through. But it provides a natural relief area where we don't have any concerns about noise. It provides a place where aircraft can land on an emergency basis, albeit in the trees, but a pilot would take in the trees rather than in an apartment complex any moment.
I would hope so.
This apartment complex is, again, it's right in the approach corridor for aircraft landing and aircraft taking off from the opposing runway. When an aircraft comes in, we operate on an FAA-mandated approach on a downwind leg that parallels the runway. This particular, and we come in at 1,000 feet plus ground level. So when we approach at the very beginning of this, we come in at 1,030 feet above ground. At that point, the pilot is beginning to slow the aircraft down, beginning to proceed with the landing checklist, beginning to descend, and just at the point where this apartment complex is proposed is where that aircraft is going just a bit over stall speed. They're putting their landing gear down if it's a retractable gear airplane. They're dumping flaps. They're very busy. As a matter of fact, the FAA does not allow conversation during those portions so that the pilot
Right.
won't be distracted. It's called a sterile cockpit.
No texting and flying. Got it.
Okay. So this is a critical phase at that turn. The FAA has done studies that have shown that 46% of all aircraft accidents in the United States occurred during the approach and landing phase of the flight. They've broken that down even further to small aircraft, general aviation aircraft like we fly at Hidden Lake. 56% of all aircraft accidents occur during the approach and landing procedure. That's the highest risk, and the two spots that are the highest risk in that approach procedure is the turn from the downwind leg to what's called the base leg, which is exactly over this 230-unit apartment complex. So our position is this poses a very significant risk to the people who live there. And although they're going to sign some acknowledgement form, according to the developer, they know they're living near an airport. Pardon me. I don't think many people understand. Airplanes do fall out of the sky. Airplanes have hit apartment complexes. And unfortunately, if a pilot on either takeoff, going out over the apartment complex, or on landing has a sudden engine problem or loses control of the aircraft because of an aerodynamic stall, the consequences could be just horrific.
You aren't just talking about, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to be down the middle on this thing, but what I'm seeing here is that this is not just going to be the pilot who's going to be at fault. This is going to be the developer who's going to be at fault. I mean, this is going to be anybody on the board, the county commission, that says, sure, let's do this. Right. If you get a bunch of children on the fourth floor of a building, okay, in some of these, 4-bedroom apartments that they're planning on putting in there, and you end up with, with dead families. Whose hands is that blood on when that happens? I'm sorry, but this is right here in front of us, and it is point blank fact. The statistics you're giving us are saying this is the worst possible place you can hang out. And to live there when you've got nighttime flights coming in, everybody's home with their kids in their beds. Okay, so these are some of our worst case scenarios for this.
I don't want to exaggerate the risk. I mean, I just want to be straight up about it. The reality is aviation is probably the safest means of transportation.
Yes, no doubt.
But general aviation accidents, small aircraft accidents, have remained pretty constant year in and year out for the past 15 years.
Okay.
The airline industry, the accident rate has dropped substantially.
Right.
General aviation, you got to remember, you have pilots that some are brand new pilots, some are older pilots. And you mentioned earlier about the fact that these are small aircraft.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they're small aircraft, but my aircraft that I fly carries 98 gallons of 100 octane avgas in it. If I take off and end up in those apartments, there's going to be an inferno.
Oh, yeah.
And we have other aircraft that are carrying 150, 200 gallons of avgas.
Yep.
So it does pose a risk. And the thing that I think we need to keep in mind is Florida, a few years ago, actually passed a statute that creates airport protection zones. The only downside of that is that only applies legally at this point to public airports, not to private airports. However, the county commission can adopt an airport protection zone ordinance that, according to the Florida Department of Transportation, one of the primary considerations besides height of obstructions is density of population surrounding an airport.
Excellent.
So you're suddenly introducing 500 people in a 20-acre area that are highly at risk and within a quarter of a mile of a fairly busy private airport.
Well, they're on the approach vector, okay, of a private airport. And I'm pretty sure that those state guidelines were not just made up for fun.
No, they weren't.
Okay.
They were made up in concert with the federal
specifically, yeah, exactly, because that's when accidents happen.
And the statute.
So this is what we have to watch out for.
The Florida Department of Transportation worked in concert with the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, passing these statutes, and the statutes dictate that county and city governments go ahead and enact airport protection zones around airports. Again, unfortunately, that doesn't automatically apply to private airports.
Right. So, go ahead.
I want to add one more thing about this particular developer that had me very concerned, because I knew that they were representing to the Pasco County Planning Commission that they had FAA approval for this project. Okay?
Okay.
And they did. But it was misleading by omission in every sense of the word.
Okay.
Because they ultimately admitted at the end of the hearing that, the FAA gave us permission, that said this is okay, but the FAA does not look at the impact that a 4-story building has on a private airport, only whether it affects the public airspace. The FAA determined that they probably weren't going to have any Boeing 777s carrying 250 people flying at 400 feet over this apartment complex on the way to Tampa International Airport.
Right.
So it didn't pose a risk of danger to the airspace.
Right.
They did not, and specifically will not, address the impact that this building or anything else will have on a private airport. So I pointed
Is
that
this
out.
outside of the FAA's jurisdiction?
Yes.
Well, then they can't even approve it if it's outside their jurisdiction. All they can do is say it doesn't affect TIA.
I understand that, but the problem
but
was
I'm
that
saying,
the developer,
am I correct?
You are correct. And
Okay.
the problem is the developer didn't explain that. They
Of course
went and
not.
got FAA approval, and they just represented, the FAA has approved this project.
Yeah, because that's okay. Never
So-
mind. That doesn't even. I mean, this is the kind of thing that we need a program like this. We need a place where people can listen and talk and get the issues out on the table and really look at them deeply. Okay, so we can find out this level of question, of complexity, that it doesn't matter that the FAA approved it, because the FAA only cares if it's going to interfere with TIA.
Yes.
Okay, they don't care if it's going to interfere with this airport. Now, when was this airport built again? 1970?
1972.
Okay, how many accidents have there been?
I can't tell you historically how many there have been.
Yeah.
There have been a few. There's never been any on that particular piece of property, but we have had aircraft taking off that have gone into the trees
Yeah.
with emergencies. We've had a few here and there, but it's been quite a while.
Yeah.
And of course, we try to be very good neighbors with Tanglewood, and with on the north side of us, we've got Water's Edge, and we're very conscientious about that.
Absolutely.
One of the other concerns is that this apartment complex is going to be right under the takeoff and departure areas of this airport. We're going to be at 400, 500 feet. On takeoff, these aircraft will be at full power. And I can assure you
It's very
there's going to be
quiet.
a lot of noise complaints coming into the county commission at that point. And
Yeah.
that's another thing that, frankly, FDOT says they should consider is noise abatement and noise issues.
Okay.
And this is going to create a problem.
Okay.
I have a question. Is there
Please.
any way that the people who are watching this can see that picture there and see exactly where they would make the turns with the planes?
Do you have a if you want to put it out there?
I can put it up here.
Okay.
I can hold it up, too, so the camera...
There you go.
I don't
Better
know if
angle.
I don't know if you can zoom in on that or not.
I
Can
have
we get that, Rob?
a question
Give
for
us
Craig.
a zoom in on that.
Is
We know
your
it's there.
airport always open?
Yeah, he
Yes.
said 24 hours a
Okay,
day.
just
There it
wanted
is.
to
There it
make
is.
that clear.
Okay.
Okay. So go ahead.
So as you're looking at this diagram, up in this area is Hidden Lake, and we actually come down on the downwind phase along this white line. The area that you see that is marked in red, that's the property that they want to build the apartment complex on. And you can
Yes.
see that's exactly where most of our
Right.
aircraft are going to make their base turn.
Yep.
They're going to be at about 1.4 percent over
Yep.
stall speed at that
Yep.
point.
Okay, good. All right. No, whether the percentage of stall speed
Right.
and all those things, what people don't to translate that, what does that mean if you're 1.4% over stall speed?
You're going very slow. You have a lot of things going on, and if you get to stall speed, the aircraft encounters what's called an aerodynamic stall. It basically starts falling out of the sky.
Right, you aren't putting enough speed under the wings in order to create the lift you need to keep the plane in the air.
That's the non-technical way of saying it.
Yes,
but yes.
okay, but then, so you basically start going down because your plane is not staying in the air anymore.
Correct.
And you have to be going that slow in order to make that turn and come around to that private airport at that prescribed altitude. That's what you're supposed to be doing. So, yeah, this is, and to make that turn right then, yes, there have been accidents at this airport. There have, and I don't know what kind of, injuries or fatalities have been involved, but it happens. And so these are the questions that I know you as community members need to have answered to your satisfaction, because this is... I'm actually at a loss for words because of the whole airport part. Okay, this just blows my mind that anybody would even think of putting, a series of apartment buildings with children in them in the approach lane, okay, for an airport. I don't care what size airport it is. I mean, I live miles from there, and they come over my house pretty low.
Right.
Okay, and I'm miles away, and they're already coming in low.
Yeah.
So I know, what that must be right there to be at, 500 feet, coming down and in. So as a final wrap up, is there anything this developer could do or say or guarantee that would make you seriously consider allowing this? Is there room for compromise on this issue? Because from what I'm hearing, the answer is no. Okay, and is that actually the case?
Well, in reference to the airport, the bottom line is right now what's on that property, a pilot that loses control of the plane for whatever reason he's got some sort of area to choose to put the plane down because there's very limited stuff up on there.
Yes.
The problem is once it gets more developed, to tell you the truth, at 400 feet, I believe I would be correct, Craig, that if it's stalled, there's really relatively a small chance of recovery.
That's true. But one of the things I want to add to that is,
go ahead.
And that is that, keep in mind, this property was designed as residential one property, one home per acre or more.
Yes.
And it's always been in there in the comprehensive land use plan.
Mm-hmm.
So if the developer came in and wanted to build homes on there within the Res 1 program, I don't think anybody would complain because that's what it's always been contemplated as. And the airport's not suggesting that the developer shouldn't be able to use the property, but he should be able to use it in the way that it was originally anticipated.
Right.
And the chances of mass casualties if an aircraft crashes into a single-family home are very
pretty
slim.
Low. Mm-hmm.
The risk here is when you start jamming high-density housing into that area, the risk of mass casualties increases dramatically.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
our concern.
There's and there's no question about that. And I think you've hit the compromise. If the developer really is in love with it and he wants to build there, he should develop according to the land that he's falling in love with. And the rules that are there already. I don't know. That just kind of makes sense to me, guys. Right. There's a reason it's a great place to live. Mm-hmm. It's because these rules have been in place, and because nobody's gotten a variance on them that has made any kind of substantial change at all. I mean, it might be like, oh, can I put up my barn 3 feet closer to your, to your property line? And you go, yeah, sure, go ahead. Mm-hmm. That's very different from, hey, do you mind if I move 500 extra people in next door?
Yes.
And that's really so how many acres is this development?
20 acres.
So he should be able to put in 20 houses.
And actually 5 acres are Swift Mud of that.
Okay, so you should be able to put in 15 houses. So, all right, Shannon, why don't you go ahead and synopsize this thing for us?
Well, I wanted to put one more thing out there as food for thought for people who actually live on Tanglewood. Mm-hmm. So there's a bit of discrepancy, actually, on who would maintain that road. In the past, I believe 2005, it was up to the residents, and it fell on them, and I believe... 2 people that I know of had to pay $14,000 between Tanglewood and Sycamore to have the road paved. Yep. So I'm also told that no, that is not the case. But the person I spoke to is from Pasco County Operations Division. I have the phone number here.
Okay.
Although the website states something else.
Yeah.
So the people who live on Tanglewood, maybe Sycamore, maybe want to look into that and find out what the truth is.
What is the current regulation and state of maintenance, rulings for that?
Right.
Has it been upgraded?
Sure.
Because if I'm correct, this road, Sycamore, is the one that connects Ridge Road all the way down to 54, or is it Tanglewood?
Tanglewood.
Tanglewood is the connector.
To Decubulus, and then
Yes.
you take Starkey to 54.
Okay, so there is this is a commonly used bypass
Oh, yes.
by people who know the area. And, to come out of this apartment complex, I think you would just pull out and go right. Otherwise, if you want to go any other way, it's going to be a really convoluted, mess.
Yes.
So if this is going to fall back on the residents to maintain this road, because a lot of people don't realize it, but believe it or not, roads don't last as long when you put more cars on them.
Well,
Tidbit, yeah.
people in the apartments aren't paying property taxes either.
Well, they're paying it in their rent. In all fairness, they pay the rent, then the property owner pays the property taxes. Okay?
Okay.
So that's it. He just passes it on. Okay, so if the property taxes goes up, he just
But
puts
they
a rent
won't
increase on them.
specifically get dinged like the people who live on Tanglewood, if that's the case.
No, they will
Right.
not get an eviction.
So
Well,
that's-
I mean, theirs will
that's
go
not
up by
okay.
whatever it is monthly.
Yes.
They will not get a
Sure.
special assessment
Yes.
for $14,000,
Exactly.
which you have to pay, or else they're going to foreclose on you and take your house.
There you go. That's the problem.
That's a big difference. Okay, now they can foreclose on the landlord, but guess what? Those 270 tenants or 230, they're all protected.
Sure.
They won't get kicked out if the landlord gets booted.
Right.
Okay, they'll just get another developer in. They still live there. But if you're special assessment, you're out of your house.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, yeah. Detail.
There's
Go ahead.
One other thing I wanted to
All right.
mention about traffic on Ridge Road.
Mm-hmm.
When they widened Ridge Road, they gave the church that's up from us
Yeah.
a slowdown lane.
Mm-hmm.
And we at Highlands of Tanglewood East asked for one. And they said that we wouldn't get it. And we were told that it will change into a 2-lane roadway in which you put your directional on, that they'll change lanes and you'll have no trouble getting in. Now, there's a double ender on this. I drove a school bus for 12 years, and I can tell you from being on the road, when you put your directional on, people either speed up so you can't get in or whatever it is. But the bottom line is I could tell you how many times that I can't turn into my right-hand turn-in lane because they're so close to me. I have to make a wide turn into the people leaving my community
Yes.
just not to get hit. Now, the one thing I want to add to this, they are going to get a slowdown lane for this community. But think of those 500 cars that are going to be going in there. Now I got to worry about them running in the back of me.
Yeah, and let us not mince words here. You are talking about 400 to 500 additional cars, just 230 units. But if most people have 2 cars, okay,
Yes. Right.
most families, and so that's what you're going to be looking at there. I think do you guys have a web page, a Facebook group, something where people can go to get more information on this, so that they can connect with you, where the community can connect?
Sure. Yes, we could give you a link.
Do you have something right now you can announce on the air? That's the place to do it.
Okay, well, right now, it's just keep it rural at protonmail.com.
Okay, so that's an email address.
Yes, that is.
Keep it rural at protonmail.com.
Yes.
So if you email to that, the best thing to do is get email to that. You can make an email list of the
Yes.
people that email in. Then if you launch a website or a Facebook group, you can alert people through
Exactly,
that. Okay,
exactly.
so it's kind of rudimentary, but it's a beginning.
Sure.
And so again, what's that? Keep it rural at protonmail.com. Okay, so if you need to contact, you want to say anything, you have any questions, you want to help these people, or you want to give them information we've been asking about them, maybe we don't have, okay, then that is a way to start. Okay, so go ahead, Craig.
And I think there's one other thing. We are coming up against the deadline. The Pasco
Yes.
County Commission is meeting next Tuesday. That's May 18th.
Goodness gracious.
1:30 at the Newport Richey Government Center to make a decision on this.
Yes.
And of course, the public is welcome. Candidly, we want everybody that is going to be affected by this
Yes.
to come out and show their support for Tanglewood, for the Highlands, and for the airport. Be there in numbers and allow the county commission to actually see how many people are opposed to this. We think that has a significant impact on their decision.
It could.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. So, and that's the whole point. It's supposed to be representative government. So
Exactly.
let's talk to the people you are representing, not the ones you might.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. I'd like to just mention something.
Okay.
at
One last
closing.
thing, and then we're going to wrap.
Okay. I want to say that the county commissioners have been helpful, specifically Christina Fitzpatrick
Okay.
and her assistant,
Okay.
Richard Jenkins. They've been accommodating. They've taken our calls. They've answered our questions.
Good.
And they made every effort to keep us advised as to the questions that we may ask.
Good.
And basically, we are relying on the fact that they'll look at all of the evidence and make a decision that's based on, good thought.
Yeah. very
Commissioner
good.
Mariano as well.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes, that's
all
true,
right.
yes.
Good. So all right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and we're going to wrap on this one. Now, if you're watching this, okay, the best thing you can do is go ahead and take this video. You're probably going to find it on YouTube, on Facebook, wherever you find it, and share it. Share it with your friends who are in the area, so that they can also know exactly what's at stake here and what's going on and about that meeting on Tuesday. Because this looks like it's a one-shot, and you've got to pull this thing together. And so if this is important to you, share the heck out of it. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to wrap up now on this special issue. And thank you for watching WeBeam TV. And have a great day. Hope to see you at the meeting on Tuesday.
Thank you for having us.